on that. But 82-71, the Volunteers beat the Texas Longhorns. Where would you like to go next? Would you like to go to the elephant in the room? The Roll Tide elephant, to be specific?
Sure.
How'd you like that? That was pretty good.
That was good.
That's pretty good. Oklahoma 93, Alabama 69. I want to start with, like, is there anything Alabama could have done to win this basketball game?
No.
Really, like, on this particular day, and it's unfortunate for them that we're going to talk about the fact that they also have the 3-point shooting clunker
Right.
in their back pocket at all times. But, like, they shot 22 threes in this game, made 6 of them. They could have made 18 of them and still would have lost this basketball.
Yeah, let's not pretend like they lost this game because of the 3-point. Well, because of their 3-point shooting.
Right.
Here's why they lost this game. Oklahoma attempted 9 fewer threes than Alabama and made 3 more of them.
Yes.
That is why they lost this game.
Right. Oklahoma, 57% from the field, 9 of 13 from the 3-point line. They made 16 of their 19 free throws. I mean, what else do you want? But they did have one of those nights. 6 of 22 from the 3-point line. Alabama only had 6 assists in the whole game, which is alarming. 6 assists on like 24 made field goals, something like that. Maybe a few more than that. I think it was 24, 25, something like that. Grant Sherfield and Jalen Hill combined for 56 on 20 of 31 shooting. No one wanted to stop them either, so that's like pretty good as well. But this was just kind of one of those games that, you know, and I don't know, and I'm going to go look, actually. I'm going to go look because, like, last year or 2 years ago, that really good Alabama team that lost in Norman, 66-61. Man, that game they were 10 of 28 from the 3-point line, so never mind. I was just kind of guessing that maybe they had a really bad performance there. Like, 10 of 28 is not incredible, but it's also fine.
Yeah.
But that's not right. I mean, it should be mentioned because their reliance on the 3 is part of why the game got so out of hand, but also is not the main reason that they lost. Sometimes the home team is just not going to miss, and this was one of those times.
And the same thing happened, to throw Iowa State real quickly into this conversation, because that's probably not where we're going to spend most of our time. I mean, Iowa State shot 40% from 3 and had 11 offensive rebounds. It didn't come close. Why? Missouri was 14 of 30 from 3. There are just – sometimes it doesn't need to be more complicated than the other team just shot the lights out. They're a good basketball team playing at home. You just move on and go to the next day. There's nothing really that needs to be addressed or fixed. I mean, I'm sure Nate Oates wants better perimeter defense and guarding the 3-point line better. But I didn't look at this and change my thoughts on Alabama really at all. They had been so consistent for, you know, the last few months. They were going to lose eventually. Now, you never want to lose the way they did, but I'm not even sure about that. I would almost maybe even argue that the way it was so lopsided makes me even less concerned about it. It's just because, like we've been talking about, they just had no chance.
The only thing I'm a little concerned about, and like, I will continue to be concerned about the 3-point shooting. We're down to 188th in the country in 3-point shooting for a team that takes the 13 most threes relative to their field goal attempts. Like, that will remain problematic. In the same way that Tennessee's clunkers offensively remain problematic. The other thing is that I'm just not, like, they don't have a single digit loss yet this year. And at some point, to win a national championship game, you're probably going to need to win a game that you probably should have lost, or a game that you would have lost if you played it 10 times, you'd have lost 7. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a very good point.
And when they don't have it, now granted, like Gonzaga, we talked about that Gonzaga loss. Gonzaga scored 100 in regulation. Like, sometimes Gonzaga is just going to do that. But their other 2 losses are by 15 to UConn, in which they only scored 67, and this game to Oklahoma, in which they only scored 69. So, and granted, it's only 3 losses since November 25th. So, like, clearly there are other things, and it's not like they don't have close wins. So I could have just as easily, like, they beat Mississippi State by 3 this week as well. So, you know, it's a little bit picking the stats that I want based on the point I'm trying to make, but that's just what we do.
But also, you're going to lose a close game at some point.
Right.
If you go the entire regular, that's where I thought you were going to go with this. If you go the entire regular season without a close loss, where you just lose the games where you kind of go, shrug your shoulders and say you had no chance. In a vacuum, I would rather have those losses because I think they're easier to compartmentalize and not get too phased by. But also, you need to, right? You're not going to get on unless you're Providence last season, you're not going to get on the right end of every single close game you play.
Right.
So at some point, if I'm Nate Oates, I'm almost kind of hoping that you get a close late game situation where things don't go well so that can be addressed before you have it, determining whether you're playing again at the end of the season during the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, that's basically where I was getting to. But I don't want my team to not really know what it's like to lose a close game.
Exactly.
So they don't have the learning experiences from it.
Right.
And they don't have that yet. They have a 3-point win against Memphis. They have a 6-point win against Houston. They have a 3-point win over Mississippi State. So it's not like they haven't been in close games. I just think there's value in being able to look at a box score in which you came out the loser and be able to kind of look at that close game and decide what you could have done better. But they haven't had that this year. That's the only thing I would like to point out. And just in general, teams that lose games close, in theory, they're in those games. And they, 2 of their 3 losses, they weren't in the game whatsoever. So I don't really that doesn't really say anything about their team per se. It just is something that, if that's still the case when we get to March, I'll be a little bit concerned about that.
And it's also just the way they play lends itself to that.
Right. Exactly. Which is also
part of the concern we've been harping on with the NCAA tournament and the approach and how it prepares you for that. Yeah.
All right. Where do you want to go